afternoon, everyone, and welcome to today's roundtable discussion on the role of AI in creating lasting customer connections in the telecom industries, brought to you by Edge Linking. I'm Bhakti, your host and moderator for this session. In the rapidly evolving world of telecommunication, artificial intelligence is playing a pivotal role in transforming how companies interact with their customers. From enhancing customer experience through personalized search to optimizing network performance, AI is making a significant stride. Terms like 5G, bandwidth, latency, and Internet of Things are not just industry jargons, but also are part of everyday conversation within the industry. But how exactly is AI driving these advancements, and what does it mean for the customer connection? Today, we have distinguished panel of experts who will shed light on these topics. I would like Priyanka Ravichandra to please introduce yourself.
Thank you so much, Bhakti, for the opportunity to be here. And of course, some of the panelists are friends, and we've been in other sessions before, and some are new as well. So thank you all for spending the time to have this conversation. And you're right, Bhakti. It's such an important topic for all of these distinguished guests, and you see that the group here is from different sections. So I come from marketing. I'm a business user. I also manage the B2B2X monetization platform for revenue growth for Technotree. We're a telecom service provider in terms of software and OSS, BSS solutions. So, we also have people from the technical side and other people like Jasim from Do. So maybe Jasim, you'd like to introduce yourself, talk a little bit about, the areas that you're focusing on and at Do from the technical side.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Bhakti. Thank you, Priyanka, for this opportunity to be with you here today, along with the distinguished panelists and guests. From the telecom sector, I will not touch base on Do specifically, but I will talk in general and the telecom sector. The telecom sector these days started to shift a telco to techco. So they are not more a telecom service provider, but they are trying to move to be perceived as a technology provider involved in different cognitive technology, be it an expert system, blockchain, IoTs, and the most recent predictive AI and AI, or a different type of artificial intelligence. So it depends on the country where they operate and how they are aligned with the regulation, legislations, and the country or the government vision. So you may see that different telecom service providers have different focus based on their different focus strategy, technology transformation, or focus on customer experience, or focus on the development of different product and services.
So that's amazing. And I think, Mahmood, you deal with strategy, right, for STC. And obviously your KPIs, your focus areas, like Jasim was mentioning, would be very different. When you're talking about implementing AI, maybe you can introduce yourself and also talk a little bit about, from your perspective, what you're seeing in the market today.
No, sure. So thank you for the invitation, and it's a pleasure to be with you here today. My name is Mahmoud Dasser. I'm a strategy advisor. And the same note, I'm going to be more talking about the generalities when it comes to the strategy for the telcos, nothing really specific for FTC. But I think from a strategy point of view, is really about telcos looking for what diversification looks like, what are the new pockets of growth can come from, or where new pockets of productivity can come from. And of course, technology plays a role for both, growing, to new markets or new domains, or also helping actually, and enhance basically the productivity overall, and the emergence of generative AI definitely playing a key role. And one of my role is to identify and prioritize where we can actually apply either emerging technologies, and specifically generative AI, to either generate new revenue or enhance productivity or enhance customer experience, where actually the loyalty and loyalty programs that fits in a perfect way.
And that's exactly where Asleel, Matar, that's exactly the area you play in, right? Customer experience. So maybe you could also introduce what you're doing and with the group.
Yeah, I think the linkage between the customer experience and loyalty is extremely important, as you know, and this is an area that actually every telco is looking for. Is loyalty is only a customer experience thing, or is it a revenue generation, or is it a retention? But now with the emergence of new platforms, new ecosystems, new social and generative AI, there is a lot of thinking and revisiting this area that is not new. Loyalty programs have been there for 20, 30 years. And there is a great opportunity for not only telco, but all industry actually to revisit this. And that's maybe we can elaborate on later on.
Definitely. Asil, you wanted to take over?
So thank you for having me, and thank you very much for this opportunity. Glad to be here with everyone. So just to elaborate and second everyone's thoughts here. Everyone is talking AI now. We see that, at least from a telco side, if you are not discussing AI and how to incorporate AI and it's not part of your strategy, you'll definitely be left behind. So us at Betelco, currently I'm GM consumer for the company, and I'm responsible for everything to do with the consumer segment. So when it comes to products, customer service, channels, and we're currently very busy with incorporating AI in how we support customers. So, for example, our chatbot soon will be completely revamped and generated backed by ChatGPT and GenAI. And we're also incorporating AI into customer value management as well. So our loyalty setup today is just a basic pointing system looking at mass market. But we will be soon integrating AI into the mix to implement hyper-personalization. This will obviously allow us to enhance the customer experience, retention, and hopefully the customer lifetime with us in general. So AI is definitely an area which is going to make us or help us to retain the customer and gain the customer. We are in a market that's quite competitive. Customers are empowered to make choices. Switching is so easy today. There are no barriers. So we have to make things better, easier, faster. And AI is definitely the technology that and we see that it will enable this for us.
Interesting. So, Irshad, can you please quickly introduce yourself and tell us brief us about the AI?
Yeah, sure. Good evening to you, Bhakti. I was in Pune till yesterday, so yeah, good to see someone still there. And good afternoon to the rest of the panelists. Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be amongst such esteemed panelists in a very interesting topic, AI. I'm part of Virgin Mobile UAE, Jasim AITC group as well. And what I do over here is I manage the commercial team. So I'm the commercial director at the organization. Roughly around 7 years, started with this organization as a pricing manager. Prior to this, I was with Vodafone India, Bharti Airtel, Tata Docomo. So yeah, worked with a lot of telcos before this, and out a telco guy. Started off with Tata as the first brand. When it comes to AI, it's one of the biggest talking point, as Asil just mentioned, right? Everyone is just talking AI these days. Luckily for us, we started this journey in 2020, immediately after COVID, when we started looking at opportunities to retain and manage our base, which was the biggest challenge for us at that time during the lockdown. We started experimenting with data science, and that's where we onboarded a couple of data scientists and a data engineer to start building machine learning models for us. It was originally there for our customer value proposition or our CVM campaigns, how to predict churn, how to upsell, cross-sell, booster, so on and so forth. And in this last 4 years, we have built roughly around 14 odd different models, which are running very, very successfully. This year, which is 2024, is when we started using LLMs. So that we can predict more accurately, look at understanding first party and third party data more better. in terms of understanding customers' needs. With this new era of everyone wanting personalized and hyper personalized content, it's critical that you have the right models in place so that we can not only micro segment the user but also hyper personalize all the comms that goes out to them. And therefore, it's critical that telcos wake up to this and start investing in these technologies. And a big example that we can take for this is e-commerce. They are miles ahead when it comes to using machine learning and AI models. And I think telcos have woken up quite quickly as well, and they are investing quite heavily across. And I'm sure whatever we do is in the best interest of the customers, because end of the day we are just making their life simpler. So at Virgin Mobile, yes, ML, I would say, is a fairly established backbone for all the campaigns and all the interactions that we have with our customers. And from personalization, we now need to move to hyper personalization. And to move into hyper personalization, LLM models or AI will be extremely critical to make the mobile simple for our users, which is one of the brand values that we all live by. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Arshad. Priyanka, I'm sure you must have a good answer. I mean, you wanted to share something about AI, how AI influences customer interactions in your, in Technotree.
Yeah, I think what we're seeing is, see, we work with large group accounts that have, of course, a federated architecture model. And of course, we also work with specific regional accounts as well. So when we take, let's say, an MTN group, an Ooredoo, an STC, they have multiple opcos across different regions that they have to kind of normalize different sets of data, create the pipelines. So as Arshad said, of course, models have been around forever, and now there are more complex models that help us process more information or more focused information depending on the use case. But the idea here is, how do you actually create those trustful data pipelines on the one hand, and then that makes the models more accurate, and then also embed those models across your business processes so that your human in the loop interactions are going to be covered. And what's really great is that TM Forum has obviously standardized a lot of these interactions and APIs across the eTom business framework for telcos. And Technotree is a proud member. We're a diamond badge holder for open APIs. We have close to 59 out of the box APIs that conform to the Gen 5 standards, which also includes the intelligence component to it, not just the business process. And these standards, we find, help us make sure that the use cases that sit on a common data model, different types of use cases that sit on a common unified data model for the telecom customer can also be expanded across beyond CVM and marketing into maybe customer support and care, maybe loyalty, maybe retention, maybe certain other, maybe fulfillment, or even maybe banking and finance and other industry verticals. So across the telecom lines of business, but maybe into industry verticals as well. So we started our journey by acquiring a company that's been around for quite a long time. I think they have one of the largest patent portfolios for use cases, and it was born in other industries like healthcare and defense and e-commerce, etc. Now the operators are the number one user because they have the highest amount of intelligence about the customer, as well as the ability to interact with multiple customers in real time. As that transformation is actually happening for operators, they're the best sort of consumers for all of this, these models that exist and are being customized for the telecom use cases, of course, with standards. So this is something that we're doing at Technotree, and we come with a certain amount of out-of-the-box use cases for operators to improve their customer experience and efficiencies.
Of course, it's fascinating to hear how AI is, making such a significant impact on customer interactions. So going forward, there are different components of AI which are making strides, like predictive analytics. So in what way does predictive analytics anticipate customer needs and improve satisfaction? What do you think about it, Mahmood?
I think the predictive analytics, as you know, has been there for a while. Now, I think the good thing these days is comes in two forms. Is one is the availability of the data and how much data is rich. That's one element, and the second element is with generative AI. It's actually kind of democratize the way you want to interact with predictive analytics systems. So the predictive analytics systems used to be something that only, I would say, data scientists that can actually interact with it, or you need, to spend a lot of time to create or write dashboards, and then, based on the dashboard, you can make decisions. Now, if you add the, generative AI layer, we still can have actually, some sort of legacy machine learning predictive analytic systems, but the way you interact with them will be natural language interaction, and then, sophistication of the queries and the questions, and the source of data becomes much more, rich, which actually enrich your capability to, explore more, and get more value from this predictive analytics that can be delivered to your, existing customers, or not yet to be your customers, or even actually customers that are part of different ecosystems. When I mean with that, your existing customers, of course, you want to predict a lot of things, what can happen, either, to cross-sell, upsell, churn, or like that. That's the audition. Not yet customers, you want to attract them, but also when you open your systems and your predictive analytic systems to the rest of the ecosystem, you can actually start even actually including, retail ecosystem, fitness gyms ecosystems, that their own customers can help them predict what can happen to their own customers, because you have source of data that potentially you don't have. So this is really a game changing when it comes, and generative AI here is and kind of democratize the level and how you enter to the predictive analytics systems that sometimes may be perceived as a complex if you only rely on the legacy systems.
Insightful. I mean, what does Dr. Jassim think about it? How is predictive analytics affecting us?
On top of what Mahmoud explained, it depends on the application that the different organizations are targeting, and based on their strategic focus as well. Different tools, different technologies are available. Okay, be it an expert system for process automation, process excellence, predictive AI, where you can use in predicting customer behavior, different customer usage behaviors, and generative AI, where you can use it internally and externally for your customers interacting with you through your digital touchpoints. But again, it depends on how rich data you have, how structured data you have. Data is available, but do you have the focus on use that data or the feed of data to structure such data and use it and efficiently in predictive AI or generative AI? This is a question. It depends on the strategy you have, on how you want to adopt and adapt such a technology within the organization, and it depends on the strategic focus, be it your internal customers, the employees, or the external customers, your customers, and how you want to leverage these to get the benefit out of it. As Mahmoud said as well, using such technology, invoking such technology within the organization, it's required to think of the compatibility with your existing technology elements, usability, this is one of the crucial factors.
Clearly. So, Irshad, what do you want to, how do you see productive analysis play a role in your company?
I think Dr. Jassim and Mahmood have covered it very, very extensively, but I'll just give a very, very basic use case that we just implemented, and probably that helps when we talk about consumption, right? UAE right now is going through a summer break, and we see a huge number of people who just leave back for their countries for the summer break. So what we did was we created a model where we analyzed and understood the amount of users who traveled in the past 3 years. We also looked at the number of people are having multiple accounts, because Virgin Mobile promotes a lot of family SIMs. And we also looked at nationalities, and we started predicting the people to travel based on their locations, and we started targeting with the roaming campaign. And on an average, when we look at 2.5-3% conversion of any campaign that goes out, we got a rate of conversion which was 7% plus. So that's one such example of how predictive analytics can understand by studying past data of the customers, their consumption and their behaviors, and based on that personalize campaigns for those users, and that immediately reflects in customer resonating and understanding that yes, comms are much more relevant for us and campaigns are much more relevant, and you suddenly see the uptake going 2x or 2.5x. And that's what we do most of the time at Virgin Mobile for any campaigns. All our campaigns are purely personalized and contextual, and we ensure that a large amount of predictive analysis used for all customers, targeting to them, so that the whole issue of spamming customers with unnecessary and irrelevant comms goes away, and you only reach out to the customer with the relevant comms. So predictive analytics is not only helping us improve systems and create data democratization, but also improve our engagement with the users, where they find us much more useful and they engage better with us.
Wow. So just taking over that conversation, like how predictive analytics actually plays an important role into marketing side as well. So Priyanka, can you just give us some example on how do you plan and how do you take over on such a thing? Because AI is very crucial, because AI has helped marketing in a lot of parameters. So how does it
Yeah.
work?
So like Jasim was mentioning, Dr. Jasim was mentioning, it's not just about marketing. It can actually go through the end, like it can provide value to any type of line of business for the operator. It could be customer support executives. It could be your CVM. It could be digital services. And in fact, when you start getting into the realm of digital services, that's when operators start competing hyperscalers and even social media companies to become. It's not just to provide endpoint use cases to the existing customers on existing lines of business, but when you create a data monetization strategy across the wealth of the customer information and customer party interactions or behavioral interactions that the operators are tracking today with the digital channels that they have, the self-care, the marketplaces, etc. And if you're able to actually create a data monetization strategy that sits on top of that trusted pipeline, you will actually be able to expose insights to enterprises so that they can start embedding those in, charging them, and then start embedding those insights across their business processes. And that's when you know that this is starting to happen the moment you understand as an operator that it's not about what channel you're bundling at the back end. It's about how intelligently you're able to target the customer with the right offer, right channel, right content, right time, right segment, right, in order to promote a conversion or some kind of activity. And if you are able to actually provide these useful insights to the ecosystem as well, integrate their data, maybe provide a value proposition for that, probably then the growth opportunities as well for operators is going to be much higher. And that's when they start competing with some of the larger partners in the ecosystem, right? Like hyperscalers and social media companies. The leverage is there because the customer interactions and data is with the operators.
Wow. So, Ashil, how can you give us some example on how organizations are utilizing to enhance customer connections in your organization?
So currently, one of the areas that we're focusing on is enhancing the level of support that we're giving customers. So, and like most of the operators, for service providers, we're trying to make less people call the call center and more people go on our digital channels. One area which we are actively working on and will be announcing soon is incorporating artificial intelligence into our digital assistant or our chatbot. So it's going to be something completely looking like you're talking to a human. It's like incorporating Gen AI into the mix. So when we do things like this, obviously it allows us to maintain leadership in the technology sphere, which as an operator, as an incumbent, is always important. Like you want to be always perceived as the market leader, and that's very important for us. The second part is when you make it easier for people to reach you and faster. Obviously, this will resonate with the customers. This will lead into building customer trust and loyalty. Obviously, will come as a byproduct of the whole thing. You guys earlier were talking about predictive analysis. I didn't get a chance to touch on that, if you may allow me. We're using predictive analysis very heavily today in many areas. One of them is churn prediction, for example, and targeting customers with personalized offers and whatnot based on so many data points. So provided obviously that your data quality is good, the technology is right, and the level of automation is balanced, and you don't end up spamming people. Predictive analysis can really make customers feel that they're close to you, you know what they want, you come to them before they come to you, and it's a whole cycle. Yeah, I know we passed that point, but I wanted to make this point because I'm a true believer of it.
Definitely, predictive analytics plays a pivotal role in customer satisfaction. So, speaking about this thing, what do you think about? So, Dr. Jassim, what do you think about it?
About
How is balancing this personalization in marketing? I mean, how is it affecting customer connection?
with regard to personalization, I don't believe personalization. It's one of the crucial factor that the customers are looking for. Especially in the telecom sector. We were talking about personalization, personalized product or personalized services, okay? But I couldn't see different telecom operators, even globally. They are looking at personalized product or services nowadays. Telecom operators could today see what is the best product or service from their product portfolio today to target and specific customers based on their behaviors and their need, but not a specifically personalized product and service for a specific customer.
Doctor, if you may allow me,
Yes, please.
I just have a point. So today, and I'm sure you guys have the same, we have the prepaid mobile product, and that's very much based on how much usage and revenue offers. So we do a lot of personalized offers based on customer usage trends, behaviors, where they are in their life cycle and age and whatnot. And that generates us a lot of money. And I don't see us being able to generate revenue without doing such initiatives, to be honest. So we do not personalize the basic prepaid plans as such, but we do a lot of personalization when it comes to offers. And we found very high 7 to 10% success rates on our CVM offers, which are personalized.
Asil, when you are saying personalization or targeting such customers or such customer touch base based on the product, the existing product and services bundles you have, or a personalized bundle for a specific customer?
Yeah, so we have the same basic price plan in the market. And then we target you, for example, if we know that you are a UAE national, you usually call international calls to the UAE or to Europe. So we hit you with a personalized offer based on your usage or your application that you use.
But within the existing bundles here that you have.
Yeah.
Bundle within the portfolio.
Yeah,
but
within the portfolio.
But not a personalized bundle.
No.
Okay, that's what I meant here.
No. Obviously, for the consumer market, personalization on a portfolio perspective is almost impossible, because who will you personalize for and who will you not? It's maybe for the enterprise, you can do more of verticals and things like that. But no, I'm talking about personalization on a after sale perspective. The portfolios are standard.
Yeah, I believe if we can touch base on the Virgin model, I believe you have like a gauge how many minutes you have or how many data.
So more of a build your own plan model.
Yes, exactly. But I don't know how successful.
We don't report numbers for Virgin Mobile. It's all EITC, so we won't be able to say how successful or unsuccessful. But yeah, for us, personalization means engagement. That's where we have started actually. So our offers are static, but there are 600, 700 total data points. And when we say our engagement is personalized rather than the offers, is because when I send a message to my customer that, good morning, Dr. Jassim, this morning when you go to Starbucks, we'll give you 25 extra stars. That's one to few. But our comms is, good morning, Dr. Jassim. Now, when you'll roll into the Starbucks at Sukem, you will get this. Yeah. So I did another layer of personalization, because I know Dr. Jassim not only goes to Starbucks, but he goes to Starbucks, which is at Sukem. Yeah. The reward might be constant, but the call to action which I'm offering to Dr. Jassim is what we have personalized. And now we are going into the next level of hyper personalization to say that every morning you go between 7 to 9, and now when you go you'll get an extra reward. So for us, the work that we've done, tariffing, which is separate, but personalization or the next level to it is more of understanding how much data points I can collect from Dr. Jasim, which is more than 300 plus now. And then based on that, how much can I personalize the conversation that I'm having with him? Yeah. So that's the level of engagement or personalization that we are working on. Tariffing is very, very different. Something which Asil spoke about and Dr. Jasim, you also touch base, is where dynamic pricing would come in. And that's where we will be understanding a different dynamics altogether, where inputs will be far more critical from the users to understand his or her requirement, and based on that the bundles will be made. And that's the next level of personalization that we are doing with our dynamic LLM pricing model. So hopefully next time after 6-8 months when we get together, we can discuss about it. But yeah, right now, to answer to your question, personalization is how we engage better and bring the real value to the customer, that we know you, we are not spamming you, and we are personalizing every aspect of the communication that goes out. I hope it helps. Yeah.
That's pretty crucial. I mean, it's a very fine balance between being personalized and managing their privacy, and it's you don't bombard them with a lot of things. So yeah, moving ahead, I want to know that how customer journey plays a role in AI. I mean, the customer journey spans various networks and touch points. How can a combination of predictive and generative AI be leveraged within the customer relationship management systems to analyze customer behavior across these touch points? What do you think about it, Mahmood?
I think definitely. I think I would say generative AI and the way it works is almost a dream come true for anyone who is actually managing the customer journey. In the customer journey, we have so many touch points. Some of them are, physical. Some of them are having that ability to actually make an abstract for all that customer journey, and then basically unify it, and then add the layer of generative AI, where it guides you in what kind of interaction, what kind of action, what kind of activity you want to either register or interact with the user to that customer journey. It's just, has a huge potential. And I believe we are in the very, very early stage of understanding the power of first generative AI and its impact on on the level of interaction and how rich that interaction can be done in terms of front end as well as the back end. So anyone who designed one customer journey understand the complexity of the systems behind, because you basically design that customer journey and then you start dreaming, I want to do this, I want to do that. And then you have a lot of roadblocks, either in terms of APIs or in terms of a process or in terms of the data, is it available or not. But if you add now the abstraction layer, thanks to generative AI and almost natural language conversation with your customer journey, it's very, very, very promising. But I believe we are in early stage of this for money, not only on traditional kind of telco packages, but also on digital services and how you can combine these two. So it's very promising from my point of view. Adding that layer and understanding that now I interact with my customer, and generative AI will facilitate that interaction, will be very promising.
What would you like to, how would you add to this, Priyanka? How is CRM and customer journey?
Yeah, I think in the age of AI, the digital telco kind of becomes a real concept, right? And that's what people are saying. So an example of that is that a CRM system for telecom operator would track maybe customer acquisition, right? The plans, the revenue, etc. But marketplace providers are looking at GMV, right? GTR, customer value management, ARPU increasing, ARPU incremental value management, right? So the KPIs or the goals that you would have can become much more nuanced, especially when you're dealing with an engagement level of data in real time. So you can actually start moving towards marketplace models for not just trying to acquire new customers, but trying to say, how can I add more value per customer with different types, of course, personalized offers that Asleel was mentioning from the portfolio, but also if it's not just from your portfolio, from an extended portfolio of digital services, how can I personalize the right types of bundles, and fulfill them across channels in real time. And then the next level of that is kind of Ershad had touched upon, which was, how are you now going to start tracking engagement? What is your cost per impression? What is the value of an impression, from your customer, and how can you turn an impression into real value in the back end, right? That's kind of the things that we're working on now, where it's not just the offer personalization and offer fulfillment that we're using models to define, but also the channel personalization or the personalization of the interaction itself to assess engagement and use that information to then kind of personalize the offer. So it's very, very useful, of course, to use generative AI, and maybe you don't need to use a large language model, but even a small language model for a focused domain use case to understand and evaluate the intent from a user based on certain behavioral KPIs that we are able to normalize in real time. So this is the kind of capabilities that having a product or a platform oriented approach instead of a services or a solution oriented approach to AI kind of helps in defining.
Ashi, do you want to add something to it? How can predictive and Gen AI, be leveraged within the CRM system to analyze customer behavior?
Sorry, I keep losing the mute button. There are like a couple on the screen. So I think, to be honest, we currently are in very early stages of playing around with how AI can be incorporated into the already existing predictive analysis platforms that we have today. So we do have predictive analysis platforms, and they don't have AI in the engine, but they do have some logic that they work on, and we're playing around with how AI can make things better and easier. The thing is that we're facing some challenges in actually making things work the way that we actually want. I don't know if you guys are facing the same when it comes to working with AI. So I'm not sure if it's something that it still needs to be proven. Let's say we still need to wait and see. Because with a lot of the work that we're doing with AI, we find that we actually have to spend a lot of time to train it to work the way that you actually want it to work. So I think we're yet to watch this space, let's say.
Yeah. I think what helps is when you have like pre-trained models, so we partner. We believe in open AI, open APIs, open AI, and a lot of our intelligence comes from having an open digital architecture. Right. So when we're open, we're able to kind of understand maybe certain attributes that can be pre-trained on a specific, set of an open data model. And we've partnered with some organizations across the globe that are pre-training models and bringing them together, especially for like e-commerce transactions, let's say between local languages. Your dialects might vary between Dubai and Saudi, the way you speak Arabic. And of course, in India, we have that across, 10,000 dialects, right? So how we can start bringing in and customizing some of these pre-trained models for our specific use cases is going to be very important, to analyze and in the context of a total TCO and an ROI on your AI spend. I think that's something that is important to look at.
One thing just I'd like to add. Since AI is open source, and whenever you talk to tech guys, at least on our side of the business, they try to do things more in-house as much as they can. So AI being open source, I can see a lot of, not just us, even companies in Bahrain, they're trying to do things in-house, and they're finding that it's not something that can easily be developed, to be honest.
Dr. Asim, do you have anything to add here?
Yeah.
About hyper-local personalization.
Yeah, as Asil and Frank said, the advice is when you are involved in a generative AI and try to use an LLM model, don't start from scratch. Always use an open source model, okay, and then you can retrain it based on the data that you have. Building an LLM model from scratch by itself, it's a company, it's a project, and it will not come within 2, 3, 4 years. OpenAI, as a company, they spent around 3, 4 years to come up with a semi-mature LLM model. So building things from scratch, it's not something easy. The advice is always to use an ready LLM model and build on top based and customize it based on your data.
So we have co-pilots, Bhakti, right, that are embedded across. I think maybe that's a good question as well, Jasim and Mahmood. Have you started working with co-pilots, starting to configure rules, understanding which offers go with whom, even to advise your own customer service agents or customer agents, right, who are onboarding customers and defining the plans? Are you able to provide insights to them using co-pilots? And what are the configurations and customizations that you've seen?
Yeah, well, actually, the visions are one of the major activities that we're having. Internal is actually we refer, or the internal team refer to it as a co-worker, not a co-pilot. And the co-worker is actually goes by themes. One theme is basically, co-worker for knowledge management, and that's across basically different departments, and a co-worker for customer service, which assists the customer agent basically on kind of augmenting their capabilities, either to understand what the customers are really asking for, or how to react to very difficult situations, or even and propose something more adapted to the customer needs. And there are a few examples. It's early stage, but the internal team have been actually, working on this to find actually the right balance, because I think the question should be developed internally, or should we go, over the shelf. It's actually a combination of both. So basically, you take something, either an open source or something that is actually already existing, and then you train it on your own kind of data as well as your culture. And the learning process has been there now for 6-9 months, and it's promising. It's early stage, but promising now. And this is one of the highest actually initiative within the company to see how much co-workers we can have to either in pure internally within departments. And you can imagine, almost every department will need a co-worker or co-pilot at a different rate, but also externally. But when you expose it externally, you have to be very careful for, responsible AI, for ethics, for a lot of things that need to be properly taken into consideration.
And Jasim, what about you? Have you started working with co-pilots? Do you have an easy framework for co-pilots that maybe your users can configure with some rules, etc.?
There,
How do you train your
there are some initiatives in the CVM area and the knowledge management, as Mahmoud said. It's in the early stages, and I believe more into the knowledge base will be more beneficial for the customers. It's something that the data is there, the LLM models, and you need just to upload and do the right enforcement before you take it to the.
Wow, what an interesting conversation we've had today. I have a lot of insight to take home, and my brain feels like it just completed a triathlon of knowledge. I hope everyone found it as insightful as it was. Thank you to our esteemed speakers, Priyanka Ravichander, Dr. Jasim Alavadi, Asil Matar, Irshad Petiwala, and Mahmood Daser for sharing their invaluable perspective and experiences. Your insights have truly illuminated the role of AI in creating lasting customer connections within the telecom industry. And to our audience, thank you for joining us. Until we meet again, signing off.